2023 for continued testimony on the petition for guardianship. Thank you everyone for joining us. Let's go through and have appearances one more time.
Alexis Spencer, co-counsel for petitioner Amber Million.
Kimberly Kuhn, co-counsel for petitioner Amber Million.
Amber Million. Suzanne Wilhelm, CAA for AW.
Good afternoon again, Your Honor. Ariel Berger here on behalf of Dee Warner.
Sean Hedberg on behalf of Dale Warner.
Thank you. Please give us your name for the record.
Detective Sergeant Dan Drew.
Thank you. You remain under oath.
Yes, Judge.
All right, you were finished with your cross-examination. Ms. Berger, would you like to begin yours?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Detective Drew, you testified to an interview of AW that you observed. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you testified to some of her behaviors. Could you recap that again for me, please?
She's very closed off. I think of the word as meek sometimes being less than nice. I don't mean it that way. She's very meek, very quiet, very closed off.
Okay. And have you interviewed or observed interviews of other children her age?
Yes.
And other children of the same gender?
Yes.
And in similar circumstances or different circumstances?
Both.
When you have interviewed or observed an interview of a child as AW's age, gender, and circumstance, has her behaviors differed from those interviews?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance, and this is going outside the scope of what he's here to testify as to. He's not here to testify as to his opinion on relationships between how AW presented versus how others have presented. He's here again to testify as to parties as they relate to the party. Also, the purpose for that investigation and that interview is, again, not an objective interview. It was an interview by law enforcement for a specific purpose and had nothing to do with anything that you should be able to apply. It would help the court in making her a ruling today.
Response.
I believe it's relevant, Judge. I'm just asking for more information related to the information that he already testified to.
So help me understand how her body language during the interview is helpful to us today.
So this interview occurred, which was testified to, it occurred prior to the temporary guardianship being entered. Since the entry of that guardianship, the individuals surrounding AW have seen a change in her, and I need to establish her personality traits prior to that, and this witness observed those directly.
Again, it wouldn't establish any personality traits. It's a child being interviewed by police officers at a police station, knowing that her father was being investigated for murder and her mother had disappeared. That would certainly not, it would not be relevant for the court to determine how that child's behavior in that setting under those circumstances. It's simply irrelevant to the proceedings here to determine what's in the best interest for AW with respect to guardianship proceedings. There are so many other contextual problems with that situation that it would not render any relevant information for the court to consider in making its ruling today.
I would tend to agree. I also think it's uncontested that the visitation has gone well and has had a positive effect. So I would ask you to move along.
Sure, thank you, Judge. Detective Dreyer, have you, you testified you've had an occasion to speak with Amber Million, is that correct?
Yes.
How would you describe her personality?
I would describe her as a normal person. I guess in this line of work, you deal with not normal people frequently, sometimes in a negative way. Amber is a normal person who, outside of this circumstance, I would never encounter for good reasons, right? So outside of investigating the circumstances with her mother, I never would have met Amber because she's a normal citizen that does normal things.
So that would be a positive in your line of work?
Correct. Yeah, that was my implication. Yeah.
And you've been able to observe her social media specifically, or just the family social media in general related to this case?
I have observed the social media following of the investigation and a lack thereof from her. Does that make sense? That she just doesn't take a part in that.
So that maybe the least active in social outcries?
Yes,
You've interviewed all of the adult children related to both Dee and Dale, is that correct?
there may have been, I can't recall which ones, but one or two that my partner Scott did that I did not. I think one, it was scheduled for him to do alone, but I came in late, and another I think that he may have done without me.
And if I were to ask you which of all 8 children can remain the most neutral as it is related to this case, who could you pick out?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation, lack of foundation and relevance. None of that has to do with what we're talking about here. Witness from the parties. As to serving his guardian.
Would you like to respond?
Yes, Judge, I believe it is relevant. If there's a party who is more so like their uncle, Greg Hardy, maybe that person is not a neutral party and everyone's aware of that. However, if there are individuals that are not and they're least socially active or asking for social outcries and are more neutral, I think that does go to show who can provide a more stable or neutral environment for the child. Very well be both of them, but there are, 4 people here asking for visitation and there are 8 adult siblings total. So I think it's important to suss that out.
I don't think this witness is qualified to do so or to opine on those issues. He's not an expert. He can only qualify as to or testify as to what he saw and not offer opinions as to how and interpretations as to that. Or as to their character.
I'm asking him to testify to what he saw.
All right, he can testify to what he observed in relation to answering that question, and I understand that it's only within the context of a criminal investigation. The objection is overruled. You may answer the question.
I'm not certain I'll be able to pick out who would be the least, I forget your phrasing.
The most neutral.
The most neutral. If you really put me on the spot, I could tell you perhaps who can't be neutral, but I'm not sure I can tell you who could be. Does that make sense?
Yes. Is either Amber or Jaren one of those individuals who cannot remain neutral?
Not in my opinion.
Is there anything else that you think is relevant in what you have observed between Amber and Jaren that you think the court needs to know?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Wilhelm?
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Detective Dreher, or Dan,
Yes, ma'am.
you just testified a moment ago that Amber Million is a normal person who outside of this context, you would not have any encounter with. And you didn't say about Jaren Warner. Is he also a normal person with whom you would probably have no contact with outside of these peculiar circumstances?
Yes, I think the only difference in my opinion of them is simply because I've seen more information from Amber, but Jaren's in a similar light. Outside of this, I would have no contact with him based on the nature of life.
And I would like to go back to something that you said too earlier in your testimony that about whether or not Amber Million, would be able to keep Angelina Warner safe. And you also opined that that Jaren Warner could also keep her safe. Now, do you think that Jaren Warner would disobey a direct order of this court for his father and risk a show cause and go to jail?
Your Honor, I would just object. It's calling for speculation.
That's true, but I think he can speculate on this point, understandably based on his experience only. So I'll overrule it on that basis.
I do not think Sharon would do that. However, I do feel as though, like any person, they could be influenced by their father. I don't have a specific instance to say that this has happened because I know X, Y, Z. But that could be a universal truth. I'm not saying it is here.
But you don't believe that he would risk going to jail over it?
I do not, no ma'am.
Thank you. And then the last area of questioning is about CPS investigations. So you testified that in your knowledge there were two, but at first you said one against Clara, and then you thought about it and you said maybe two. Now, are you absolutely positive that there were two against Clara? Could you have been mistaken?
I'm positive there was one, but I thought there may have been a second. And to be forthright, I've intentionally been hands off with anything else outside of my investigation regarding that family.
Okay, so you could possibly have been mistaken.
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
And at this point, I would like to ask the judge to take judicial notice of all PC 643s that were filed by the former GAL, who's me, in the conservator case and in the petition for death case. And that's where Your Honor has been fully apprised of all CPS investigations that have happened in this matter. And yes, you are correct. There was one against Clara. There was one. It was unsubstantiated though, as you testified to, correct? Okay.
So as it relates to taking judicial notice, I think what you're asking me is to consider the testimony that I've listened to during that hearing and the evidence that was contained therein, but nothing specifically at this point. Is that what you're saying?
The CPS investigation, specifically those that there was, if I may, there was one CPS investigation against Clara. It was unsubstantiated. And then there was one later against Mr. Warner, and it was also unsubstantiated, but that's all that there was. There were two, though. He was right, there were two, but they were not both against Clara. I just want that to be clear.
So just that piece.
Just that piece.
Any objections?
No objection, Your Honor.
No objections. Ms. Berger?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor. That was it. Thank you.
Redirect?
None.
All right. Did you have any recross, Mr. Head?
I do not.
Thank you for your testimony. You may return to your seat. Any reason to keep this witness?
Your Honor.
Mr. Head, any reason to keep this witness?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you for your time and your testimony.
Thank you.
You're excused for the day. Our next witness, Ms. Kuhn.
Would be Amber Million, Your Honor.
Come on up to our witness stand.
Raise your hand, please. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? There's a step, be careful.
Good afternoon, Amber. Can you state your full name for the record?
Amber Million,
Can you state your address?
3148 Center Highway, Adrian,
What is your marital status?
maybe
How old are you?
36,
Do you have any children?
2.
What is your relationship to AW?
She is my half sister.
Can you talk a little louder?
Sorry, she's my half sister.
And is it true that you filed a petition for guardianship on September 19, 2023 for AW?
Yes,
And how old is AW?
she's 11,
And what is her date of birth?
3112.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked as Exhibit 2. Can you identify that exhibit for me, please?
What do you want me, what do you want me to?
What is that? What is that exhibit? Is there a heading on the top?
Maybe just for the petition for guardianship.
Yes. So can you turn to your affidavit? That is also part of that petition, please. Do you see the affidavit?
Yes,
Okay, and if you turn to the second page of that affidavit, is that your signature?
yes.
Okay, since the time you signed that affidavit, have there been any updates on the status of your mother's disappearance?
Dale has been charged with murder.
At the time you filed your petition for guardianship, where was the respondent, Dale Warner? Or where was Dale Warner? It's not the respondent, but where was he? He was in jail. And what was your understanding at the time you filed the petition as to whether or not Dale had permitted AW to reside with another person and did not provide that person with the legal authority to care for AW?
I had no idea what plans were in place at that time.
Now, prior to your mother's disappearance, how would you describe your relationship with AW?
We were very close throughout her entire life until this happened, and contact was stopped after we lost our mom.
How often did you spend time with AW?
At least, I mean, I saw or talked to her, I would say at least on a weekly basis.
Would AW ever spend the night at your home?
Absolutely.
How close was AW with your children?
Very close. My oldest is 2 years younger than her. So they grew up together, similar to more of a cousin or sibling type bond.
When AW was a baby, how active were you with her care?
So when Angelina was born, I was married and going through nursing school. So I wasn't living in the home at the time, but I stopped there often. Whether it was just to maybe rock her to sleep for around bedtime, or just a random play session in between classes. Sometimes I would sit over there and she would sit with me while I studied. And then as time went on, I had kids, and my mom and I kind of raised our kids together. We would, I'd spent a lot of time over there. I would go over there at nighttime, do laundry, and sometimes we would have the kids' bedtime routines together and do bath time. And
Need to take a minute.
and then our relationship always remained strong throughout the entire time until we lost our mom. I feel like Angelina started school and she always included me in special events. Like, she had a bring your special person to school. She asked me to attend for 3 years in a row, including the same week my mom went missing. So we had a very close relationship.
How is AW's bond with your husband?
We have a good bond. My husband is the kind of dad and guy that gets in, plays with the kids. He'd take them on golf cart rides, and he's always the one to get in the pool or play in the pond with the kids. He's always had a good relationship with Angelina.
Prior to your mother's disappearance, how would you describe AW's personality?
Very outgoing, very happy, and always wanting to participate in things, very social. She did well with other kids, would just, never seemed uncomfortable, never a shy type. It's a very comfortable little girl.
What, if any, changes in AW have you observed since you've reestablished contact with her?
She was extremely quiet the last 2 visits that I had with her. She almost whispered throughout the visits. I felt like she opened up and she'd start talking after I asked her questions, but she was very, very quiet. I don't think she really broke that whisper the entire time.
How is her reaction to you different prior then to mother's disappearance?
So when I would get to my mom's house, she would always run up and be so excited to see me and Amber, and it's obviously completely different now. I think she's almost afraid to be excited. I truly feel that she does want a relationship. I feel like she does need me. She needs my siblings. We were a huge part of her life before this happened. She needs all the support.
Let's talk about your siblings. How, when you say that they were a huge part, how? Describe that for me. What did life look like before Dee's disappearance?
So my sister lived home when Angelina was born, so they shared a really close bond. Zach worked in the office, so he saw her every single day. I think that we've all been a huge part of her life, a very huge part of her life. I mean, Raquel and Zach were with her on a daily basis for years. And that was all ripped away from her when we lost our mom.
How comfortable is Angelina in your home?
Very comfortable. I mean, she would go and grab drinks, snacks, whatever, never felt the need to ask. Build a fort, take down all the pillows off the couch. She was very comfortable.
How many bedrooms does your home have?
3.
Would you be able to accommodate AW if you were granted guardianship?
Yes.
When, prior to the visits that have been ordered by the court, when was the last time you saw your sister after your mother's disappearance?
I saw her for a very split second at school. They did like a family fun something day, and I happened to be there, and I saw her for a very split second, and that was a year, give or take.
Why were you no longer able to see AW after your mother's disappearance?
I don't know the exact reason. I don't know exactly. I know Dale did not want us around her. He denied contact.
How often did you try to reach out to Dale Warner to see if you could see AW?
Right after we lost our mom, I reached out to him often. So often, at one point, I know I reached out to him via text, phone call, every single day for a straight week. And I'm pretty sure he never responded that week until the very end of the week. And we did make arrangements. There was he did allow minimal contact in the beginning. He was pretty strict about how long I could be with her. And then it turned into, at one point, I went to pick her up. He was gonna let me see her for a couple hours, and I had said something along the lines of her behavior changed, and that he felt that she wasn't listening when she came home from my house, which I felt was pretty selfish considering everything that she was going through, that maybe she was acting out because of that. Angelina never had any issues at my house. She's always very well behaved.
What opportunity did you try to, or what opportunity did you take to try to see AW at her gymnastics class?
When contact,
We're subject to relevance, Your Honor. I mean, we're not really here to discuss any interaction or any feelings that Dale had or any prevention of visitation that Dale may have as the custodial parent prevented any visitation. That really has no bearing on whether Ms. Million or Mr. Jaron Warner are appropriate guardians in the circumstance. It's undisputed that Dale prohibited visitation. That's not a dispute. It's not relevant, and it's just a waste of time.
Your Honor, what's really important in this case, court bases a lot of weight on the child's preference. And if a relative, sibling, any relative has had a very close relationship with a child, has been removed, abruptly removed from that child's life, I don't believe that preference may be her 100% preference based on the circumstances that have occurred in this case. So I'm trying to establish that Amber Million was almost like a second mom to this child before she was ripped away. And I think it's really relevant for the court to know how close that relationship was when trying to determine a child's preference. When a child has been deprived of a family that she had an extremely close relationship with, I think there's an issue as to preference and what that would be, but for the circumstances that had occurred.
Your Honor, that's argument, but that still doesn't negate my objection or even properly respond to my objection. I don't think that it's appropriate to be asking about that. Again, it's undisputed that Dale Warner did not allow visitations of that side of the family, especially those who are accusing him of murder publicly. That's undisputed. So again, asking questions that were related to that prohibition is not relevant. Sister counsel can make her arguments, if she's not write it down. But again, the line of questioning is still irrelevant and a waste of time.
Your Honor, it's not a waste of time because Amber's going to testify as to her observations and how AW's behavior was. So I think it's very relevant, given the testimony that the court just heard about her being a vivacious, vibrant child. And I believe if you allow me to ask the questions, you may hear some testimony as to my client's observations on behavior.
I do think that the circumstances around the undisputed severing of contacts between these two individuals is relevant for purposes of looking at the bond among some of the other best interest factors, the stability, the routine, the predictability of the proposed environment. So I think to those points, it is relevant, and I will allow the question. The objection is overruled.
yes, again.
Yes. So what, if any, opportunity did you have to attend a gymnastics class of AW without Mr. Warner's consent or permission?
So when contact pretty much stopped between Angelina and I was thinking of ways where I could see her for especially occasions like her birthday. So I ended up going to her gymnastics to watch, and my two sons and I went and we just sat and watched. I did bring her a gift. When gymnastics ended, Dale came in and saw that we were sitting there, and he stood by the door with his back to us and motioned her out. As if he didn't want her near us. She stopped and she hesitated as if maybe they had a conversation about her wanting to move forward so that she could talk to us. And he again motioned her out.
Was that the last time prior to the visits commencing through this action that you saw AW?
I believe that was one of the last times.
You testified that Zach worked at the office. Where was the office located and what office are you referring to?
So their office was located on the property, just, I mean, walking distance from my mom's home.
And was the contact with your family, the adult siblings, then daily with Angelina or AW?
Yes, it was daily. They saw her daily. Zach saw her daily. My sister saw her daily for years because she lived there. Yes.
When your contact was cut off with AW, who, if anyone, on D. Warner's side of the family was allowed to have contact with AW?
I think I was the last one to have contact with her. I don't think that there was anyone else. I don't believe there was anyone else.
Why didn't anyone else in the family have contact with AW?
I think they may have seen her a time or two after this happened. I honestly, I can't remember. But I don't know the reasoning. I believe my sister reached out trying to see her as well, and she got the same pushback that I got.
How many visits have you had with AW?
2,
How long were those visits?
1 hour.
And what can you tell the court, in addition to what you've already shared, about how those visits with AW have gone?
Feel like they went really well. As far as I kind of expected for her to be a little bit nervous just because we haven't seen each other in a while. But as soon as we started talking, it was like I could feel that connection starting to come back almost instantly. I know at the end of our first session, she told me about a sore on her foot, almost as if she was seeking that like motherly comfort type, something that she would have done prior to my mom losing our mom.
How, what if any, interaction have your children, AW's nephews, had with her?
Since losing our mom,
Correct.
every time I saw her after we lost our mom, my sons were involved. They were obviously excited to see her and didn't really understand, still don't understand why the contact has stopped. So, and why it began to be limited and then stopped.
3 months that Dale Warner was in jail, and prior to the guardianship petition being filed in this court ordering visitation, did Jaron or anyone from Dale Warner's family reach out to you or any of your relatives in an attempt to have AW spend time?
No.
Never?
Never.
What has been your presence on social media?
Very limited. I've tried to be very neutral. It's been a priority to me to keep that relationship with Angelina from the beginning. So I've tried to remain as neutral as possible, but it seems like it really hasn't made a difference.
Why is that?
Because Dale still hasn't had a lot of contact.
Would you facilitate a relationship between AW and Dale Warner's side of the family if you were granted guardianship of AW?
Absolutely. I think that's extremely important. She should be getting support from all of her family.
Would you facilitate a relationship with AW and Dale Warner's family without a court order?
Yes. For Angelina's healing and trauma, I would never cut ties with family or anyone that she wanted to spend time with as long as it was safe.
Based on your observation of AW, the 2 times that you've been able to see her, what, if any, concerns do you have that your abrupt absence and your family's abrupt absence has affected her negatively?
I think it's affected her horribly. She not only lost our mom, but she lost the side of her family that was closest to her. We were closest to her. We were the next closest thing.
How often did Dale Warner's family interact with AW prior to your mother's disappearance?
They interacted with her. They all had a relationship with her. My point is that our relationship on my mom's side was much closer.
If you were appointed guardian of AW, would you shield her from any family members whose feelings or strong opinions regarding your mother's disappearance could cause her distress?
Absolutely. She needs to be protected. She's a child. She needs somebody to watch out for her. She needs somebody to love and support her. Absolutely.
What is your capacity and willingness to provide AW with love, affection, and guidance?
She's my sister. I love her beyond words. I would do everything I could to make her feel loved and supported and taken care of.
What is your religious denomination?
Christian.
What is AW's religious denomination?
She's also Christian.
Are you able and willing to continue to educate and raise AW in her religious faith?
Yes,
What school does AW attend?
Illinois Christian.
Where do your children attend school?
Become Steve.
What is your understanding as to whether AW likes attending her current school?
I believe she enjoys her school. I'm sure she has lots of friends and she's happy there.
What is your ability to keep AW in the same school if you were appointed as her guardian?
Keeping her at the same school, that's extremely important.
How important do you feel it is to maintain consistency for AW by keeping her in her current school?
It's extremely important considering everything that she's going through.
What activities does AW enjoy?
She's in gymnastics. She plays the flute. She likes to knit. She has a strong bond with her cat. Those are the big things.
What, if any, willingness would you have to allow AW to bring her cat and her chickens and whatever is comfortable, makes her feel comfortable to come home?
Absolutely. I've got plenty of room for all of it.
What is your willingness to continue AW in activities such as gymnastics and flute if you were appointed her guardian?
I think that's extremely important and nothing would change there.
What is your capacity to provide AW with food, clothing, medical care, and other materials needed for her?
Same as it is for providing for my own children, would be no different. My husband and I live very comfortably, would never be an issue.
Where are you employed?
I am a registered nurse at a Lara Caring.
And what does your husband do?
He's a builder.
How important do you feel trauma counseling is for AW?
I feel that it's extremely important. Although she has lots of people that love her and want the best for her, we don't have those particular skills to deal with the trauma that she's going through. It's absolutely necessary.
How? What is your understanding right now as to whether AW is seeing a trauma specialist?
I believe she's not seeing one at the moment, but I thought that maybe that was in the works.
How big of a priority would you make getting AW to a trauma specialist and ensuring that she's receiving proper counseling if you were appointed her guardian?
I believe it should have happened a long time ago. It's long overdue, so it would have been a big priority to me.
What, if any, concerns do you have regarding the environment where AW currently is and the desirability of maintaining continuity in the Munger home?
I feel that, in my opinion, it seems like it would be pretty traumatic, considering that she lost her mom and now her dad is gone. And I know personally, the thought of going to that house is pretty traumatizing to me as an adult. I can't imagine how it is for her as a child. I know it's different for me and her, but that would be pretty hard.
What, if any, awareness do you have of domestic violence in the home, the Munger home?
I don't know of any.
What, if any, concerns do you have that if Dale were able to post bond, as he currently trying to do, and he's released and goes back to that home?
I would naturally be concerned for her safety,
Why is that?
considering what it's charged for. And
Subject to relevance, Your Honor, if parents were available, there would be no need for a guardian, number one. Number two, this isn't really what we're here to decide. It's between Sharon and petitioner. Whether Mr. Warner is available as a parent, he would have a constitutional right to parent. That hasn't been changed, and nor would any speculation as to whether him being released and how that would affect AW for today's proceedings.
Your Honor, the detective testified as to the risk to AW if Mr. Warner is released. And if he goes back to the home, I'm simply asking Amber if she has concerns about that as well.
So in the event that, I mean, at this point, it's uncontested that the child needs a guardianship. So who the guardian will be is the main focus, obviously, of today's proceedings. By natural extension, the court has to look at what would be appropriate parenting time or visitation for your client in the event that he were to be released. So actually, these are very relevant questions to that point, and I look forward to hearing from Jared as well on his thoughts around what that looks like in the event that Mr. Warner were to be released. So thank you for the objection. I can appreciate your concerns, but it's overruled.
So again, what, if any, concerns do you have for AW's safety if Dale Warner posts bond and is released from jail?
I naturally am concerned for her safety, considering he was charged with murder.
What, if any, concerns do you have specifically with regard to AW's safety?
Either him taking off, him acting out and harming her or someone else, or doing something to himself in the home and she would have to witness that. Lots of things.
If you were appointed guardian for AW, how would you facilitate parenting time between AW and her father that would be safe and appropriate
From jail,
if you were released from jail?
if you were released. I feel like that would need to be supervised. I don't know that that would be safe if it was not supervised.
In comparison to Jaren, who is a temporary guardian at this time, why do you feel that you would be a more suitable guardian?
I feel that Jaren is a great person. I've never had any problems with him, although he is pretty young and he's a male. I am a mother. I have children. I have a very stable, consistent routine at home. I feel that bringing her home would almost be therapeutic having my kids around. It's comfort. Someone that's been a part of her life forever. And I think it would just be a much more consistent and comfortable, loving environment.
How comparable is your consistency and routine to the consistency and routine that your mother Dee had prior to her disappearance?
I feel like we do a lot of things similar because we kind of keep those same patterns in life. So I feel that our routines and what we do as far as having dinner and bedtime and showers and relaxing together is very similar.
What is your thought about a co-guardianship with Jaren?
I'm not against that idea. Anything to allow her to have us back in her life. Me and my siblings and my kids, I think it's extremely important that we have that bond again. She's missed, she needs us and we need her. I'm not against co-guardianship. I have no problems with Jaren. I feel like we could work it out.
How long have you known Jaren?
Well, since my mom and his dad got together, a long time. Let's see, probably 15 plus years at least. Let's try to guess. Probably more like 20.
And while prior to Dee's disappearance, how would you describe your relationship with Jaren?
I'm a lot older than him, so we never had any issues, but we also were never really close because I am a lot older.
How have the two of you been able to interact during the pendency of this case?
Not had any issues. In the beginning, I think all of us were we were all pretty decent with each other, and it just got harder and harder, but I've never had any issues with any of Dale's kids.
Amber, what if any concern do you have that Jaren could be subject to Dale's influence?
I think it's a possibility. I mean, it's his dad. I think it's possible.
What if any concerns do you have if Jaren were subjected to Dale's influence when it comes to your contact and your family's contact with AW?
I feel like Jaren is a good person with a good heart, and I would hope that it wouldn't influence contact, but I mean, I can't say for sure that it wouldn't.
Is that a legitimate concern of yours?
Yes.
Regarding the moral fitness when, if ever, have you engaged in any conduct that would compromise your moral fitness? Have you ever been arrested?
No.
What, if any, issues do you have with your mental health?
None.
What, if any, issues do you have with your physical health?
None.
What, if any, domestic violence are you aware of AW witnessing in the home where she's currently residing?
Not aware of any.
Why do you feel you should be appointed guardian to AW?
I think I kind of talked about this, but I feel like I am the closest thing she has to a motherly figure. I think it's important that she has a motherly figure in her life. I have a very stable home and a loving husband and 2 great kids. I think that I can provide her with the love and support that she desperately needs.
What do you believe would be a suitable plan for transitioning AW into your home if the court were to grant your petition?
I think that would need to be a counselor, a trauma counselor would need to be involved in a transition like that, because I think it would be hard, but also good in the long run.
What, if any, concern do you have that AW's wishes have been impacted due to your and your family's absence from her life?
I feel that's made a huge impact. I feel like if our relationship was maintained throughout this process, that Angelina would want to be with me. I really have little doubt in my mind. That's what she would want.
What, if anything else, do you want to share with the court regarding your feelings?
I did write a little something, if it's okay to read it.
Your Honor, can my client?
Any objections?
No, good.
Go ahead.
No objection.
Sorry about that. I thought you were.
Lena and I have shared a special relationship. My love for her is beyond words. I was able to watch her grow and have shared so many special moments with her. I experienced the first feeling of a mother's love when she came into the world, as I felt like she was more of my own child than a sister. Angelina and I continued that close bond until we lost our mom and contact was stopped. We spent a lot of time together. When she was a baby, I was married going through nursing school. But every chance I had, I would come over and spend time with her, whether it was rocking her to sleep at bedtime or short play sessions in between classes. Sometimes she would sit with me while I studied. As Angelina got older, I began having kids and my mom and I raised our babies together. I would come over and do laundry and we would have dinner together and complete the bath and bedtime routines. My relationship with Lena remained strong. Even as she started school, she still included me in important events in her life, including the bring your special person to lunch. I know that some of this is repetitive, but I feel like it's important that I get my point across as to how important our relationship was. Like I had mentioned earlier, for 3 years in a row, she had asked that I attend that bring your special person to lunch. Our relationship means so much. And I know she needs me and I need her. I miss her. The 2 visits that I was able to have with her meant so much to me. Although it's so hard to see her for only an hour, I was so grateful for our time together. I want to be there for her in every way possible.
Other questions?
Cross-examination?
Yes, sure. Thank you. Well, you know, I think it's very clear that you care very much for your sister. I don't think anybody's disputing that. There were a couple things that you said that I'd like to explore a little bit. You said that you were concerned that there may be some danger from Dale Warner if he's released from jail, right? Aside from the few weeks that he was in jail, he's been caring for AW, since your mother's disappearance, right?
As far as I know,
And you're not aware of any dangerous situations that he put AW in during that time period, correct?
I wouldn't know that.
You also said that you're not very active on social media with respect to the charges and surrounding your mother's disappearance.
No, I'm not.
Well, haven't you shared certain social media posts?
Correct.
In fact, on August 9th, didn't you share one from your brother, Zach Bach, that said, "Welcome home, you POS, jail for Dale Warner"? Didn't you share that?
I shared an article that may have been something that was attached to the article that I shared.
Can I show you something that might refresh your memory?
Sure.
It's attached as Exhibit H to our objections, so everybody has a copy.
Yes, we
Right,
have.
Roche, thank you. You recognize that post?
Yep.
Isn't that something that you shared that was posted by Zach Bach, your brother?
Yes, I did not comment on it. I shared some information.
All right, and you shared, and what you shared said, "Welcome home, you POS, for Dale, jail for Dale Warner," right?
I see that it says that.
Have you seen the objections that were filed to your petition?
Yes.
Did you see the exhibits that were attached to that?
What are you referring to?
I'm referring to Exhibit H that has 20 some pages of social media posts that you've made.
Objection,
Or
Your Honor.
shared related to Dale Warner.
What's the nature of the objection?
Earlier, Mr. Head stated that it's about current day facts that we should be looking at, and I believe the social media posts he's referring to were before the guardianship actually ever occurred.
At this point, all he's asking her is if she's seen the attachments. But as to the relevance of these, I don't know what time frame we're talking about. Obviously, she does. I haven't looked at them because they haven't been admitted or not admitted. So do you want to make an argument on relevance now, or do you want to wait another question or two?
I mean, I guess we can, well, certainly they're relevant because it goes to the best interest factors directly. Specifically, the party's willingness and ability to facilitate and encourage a close and continuing parent-child relationship with parents. I mean, it's directly relevant because, and it also goes to credibility because we just heard testimony about how Ms. Million did not really post so much and is very neutral on social media, and that's demonstrably false as contained in Exhibit H to our objections to the original petition in this proceeding. So it's demonstrably false by some 20 some pages of postings and shares and likes of some very vile things said about Mr. Warner.
Well, as it relates to what that attachment is, again, I haven't looked at it. It might have been attached as an offer of proof, but there's no admission of those into evidence. And if you would like to verify those or validate those or talk about those in a way that's grounded in the rules of evidence, I'd be happy to look at that. But as to the relevance piece, it is an issue that's been raised. The time frame is relevant as well. It's close in time to all of these events. So I'm going to overrule the objection, but I suppose I can to you on the issue itself. The weight of what you're talking about is affected by the issues that have not been addressed yet under the rules of evidence.
Are we following strict rules of evidence or are we not? I just want to make sure I'm clear.
Well, that's an interesting question, Mr. Head, because as it relates to exhibits that were attached, this particular exhibit, I would want, you're right, the rules of evidence don't necessarily apply. But if you would like me to really look at these seriously, I'd like to know for sure that they are actually in fact her posts.
Okay.
Is that-
Sure. All right. And these were attached as a filing, specifically our objections. They are already part of the record. So
They referred to the file.
I'm just referring to those posts that were attached as Exhibit H for our objections. So I guess, let me ask it this way, Ms. Millian, isn't it true that you're a member of this Justice for D Facebook page?
Yes,
And isn't it true that there's several postings in that page related to making accusations against Dale Warner?
I honestly don't get on the page and follow everything that's on it. I want and have wanted justice for my mom as anyone would. And so should Dale have wanted justice as well. I mean, I really don't get what the problem is for the Justice for D, because we all want justice for our mom.
I believe that that's objectively true. I think everybody does. What I'm asking though, is doesn't that page contain accusations against Dale Warner? That's what my question is.
Your Honor,
I don't know.
to object, I believe that group has 2 million, 20 million members, millions of members with millions of posts and comments daily, weekly, if not daily. So I don't know that there's any way that she would have knowledge of every post that's been made in that.
I didn't ask if she had knowledge of every post that's been made, and there's thousands, not millions of members in that group. But what I did ask is if she's aware of posts that are making accusations against Dale Warner. That's what my question is.
All right, we'll rule the objection. Seems like you should be able to answer that question.
I'm sure there are comments like that, but I don't follow the page and know all of the comments and like and follow what everyone says on there.
You don't like and follow all of them. I understand that. I think that's true. But you do share some of them and like some of the posts on that page, don't you?
You can't even share from that page. So no, I don't.
Okay,
And
okay. Are you aware of posts from your brother, Zach Bach, calling Dale Warner a POS?
yes, I'm aware of it.
Are you aware of posts from your sister? She goes by the name Amandia Bach. You know who that is?
Amanda,
I'm just saying what she goes with on her on Facebook.
Amanda, yes.
Yeah. Are you aware that she's made posts disparaging against Dale Warner?
I'm sure she has.
All right. And didn't you like some of those posts?
I couldn't tell you.
Would you like me to show you some?
Article maybe.
Do you believe that your sister AW can be affected by what you and your siblings post on social media?
Like I said, I try to remain neutral. I do share some news articles and things like that and what's going on. I think this entire situation affects her. I mean, it's not me specifically that's harming her. The news is out there.
I understand. Did you understand my question?
You're asking if me specifically sharing something will harm her.
Do you believe that the social media from you and your other siblings affect AW?
I don't know that she sees any of the Facebook posts. I guess I don't know.
Do you know if she has access to social media?
I have talked to her on TikTok. I don't know if she has Facebook. I have no idea.
Do you know that she goes to school with people that have access to social media? Do you know that people probably talk to her about things that are posted on social media about her father?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
any response?
Your Honor, we allowed a lot of leeway on speculative issues prior from this witness and from other witnesses here today. I'm asking what she knows. I'm asking what she knows.
She doesn't know the people that she goes to school with.
Agreed. It's too far removed. It's not only no contact with her, but it's her people that she goes to school with. So I'm gonna sustain that.
All right, I can ask another question. You'd agree with me that it's reasonable that people would tell her, your sister, what's on social media about her father, right? You'd agree that's reasonable.
Probably.
All right, so wouldn't you agree that it's reasonable for her to find out about things that her siblings or half siblings are posting about her father on social media? That's reasonable, isn't it?
Objection, Your Honor. She just said she didn't know what kind of social media she had.
It's not what I asked.
He's asking if she thinks it's reasonable that this would be effectively possible. So it's more,
Speculation.
yes, it is speculation. It's relevant, obviously, because it is possible that this child is seeing these things. I think it would be better phrased as if it were possible rather than reasonable, because it is a little bit less speculation. But that's how I'm taking it, frankly. So I'll overrule the objection, but that's, if that's any help to you, Mr. Head, about how your questions are landing on the bench.
All right, thank you. So can I get an answer to the question?
Can you ask me again?
Sure. Isn't it possible that AW is seeing social media posts that are about her father and your mother, that are posted by your siblings and shared by your siblings?
It's possible.
And by yourself too, right? Same.
Sharing articles that she's seeing in other places.
And sharing posts about calling your father a POS, yeah, that too.
It's possible.
So you testified earlier that you have a 3-bedroom home, correct?
Correct.
And you have 2 sons, right?
Correct.
Your 2 sons share the bedroom right now?
Yes, they have a bunk bed.
They have a bunk bed? All right. So AW would have her own room at your house
Correct.
while your 2 sons share a room.
Correct.
And I'm sorry, what did you say you do for a living?
I'm a nurse,
And how many hours a week do you work?
40 hours a week.
Do you have a set schedule or does it vary?
I have a very flexible schedule with the job that I have.
Okay, where is it specifically you're working in terms of, well, let me just ask the setting. Is it a hospital?
No,
Okay, is it a doctor's office?
no.
Well, what is it?
I'm a home care nurse, so I visit others' homes and schedule, and I have a pretty flexible schedule. I'm allowed to schedule as needed throughout the day if something comes up.
So you're not dealing with any emergency type care that would take you away at a moment's notice?
Nope.
How about your husband? How often, how many hours a week does he work?
40 hours.
And you said he's a builder? Does he work a regular schedule or is he kind of working depending on the job?
Depending on the job.
All right. Does he own his own company or does he work for somebody else?
He owns his own company.
Who currently helps, if anybody, who currently helps with childcare for your 2 sons?
I don't really need childcare, but when I do, every once in a while, my mother-in-law lives next door and she helps out.
All right. AW has a lot of commitments, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Like gymnastics 3 days a week right now, right?
Yes.
She also plays the flute, as you said, right?
Yes.
In fact, tonight she has a band concert, doesn't she?
Yes.
Would you be able to take her to all those commitments?
Yes.
Okay, how are you confident that you would be able to do so?
I'm able to provide that for my own kids and be able to provide that to her. My husband and I work as a team. We always make it work.
And I'm sorry, where, how far away is AW school from where you live?
Probably 15, 20 minutes.
Right. Can you believe that you'd be able to get her to and from school every day?
Yes.
Are you financially able to support her extracurricular activities such as gymnastics
Yes.
and band and renting instruments?
Yes.
Earlier, you testified that consistency and stability is important, right?
Yes.
Don't you think it would be stable and consistent for AW to remain in the home that she grew up in?
I think the home that she grew up in could be traumatizing. I also think that she's been pulled away from half of her family, as I mentioned before, which is not a stable environment. She doesn't have that extra love and support that she once had.
Would you agree with it would be important to rely on professionals to make the determination as to the type of environment that AW should live in?
I do think that it's helpful to have a professional opinion.
Such as an independently appointed, court-appointed attorney or guardian ad litem, right?
I think it is important, but I also think my feelings and the situation, viewing the situation is important too.
How about the independent considerations of a treating counselor or physician? Think those would be important to consider?
Yes,
Are you aware that AW's counselor previously indicated that and suggested that she not have contact with you and your siblings?
I am aware of that.
All right. It's obviously you're very, you have very strong emotions with respect to your sister AW. Certainly, that's understandable. You also have very strong emotions with respect to your mother's disappearance, right?
Yes,
Do you believe that you could keep those emotional feelings about your mother and what may have happened to her separate from your sister?
absolutely. I already do.
I know you say that, but some public postings don't necessarily indicate that.
I have children as well. I've had to keep my emotions and everything else separate for them.
How old are your children?
9 and 7.
Are they on social media?
No.
So they're not exposed to that yet,
No, and I don't know that Angelina is either.
but you do communicate with her on TikTok.
On TikTok, yes, not on Facebook.
So how long have you been communicating with her on TikTok?
I had a couple of times and then that also stopped, and it's been quite a while ago.
Okay, so how often do you communicate with her on TikTok?
I haven't. It's been a long time. I don't know what you're asking.
I'm asking how often you communicate with her on that platform.
I maybe did once or twice. I honestly don't know the amount of times. It wasn't very many before that stopped,
When did that stop?
back when the contact stopped. So probably a year, give or take.
Can I just have one moment on her?
Sure.
Are your sons involved in any activities?
Yes.
What?
They play soccer.
Travel soccer? Something
Yes.
different? Where do they travel to?
All sorts of different places.
Throughout the state, out of state?
Not out of state.
Okay,
Michigan.
and how far away and how often?
At max an hour away. And their travel season is actually done, so they won't travel again until spring. They have games maybe every other week and practice during the week.
And what would you expect the AW to be doing during those practice times when you're taking your sons to practice?
Well, I have a supportive husband that would be taking my sons, and I could stay back with Angelina. Or if she wanted to join, she could come along.
Okay. How do you discipline your sons?
When there's issues, I guess, maybe taking away some TV time or something that they might enjoy for a short period of time, so that I guess that's mainly what I go for. Something that more of like a timeout situation, timeout from this activity because of poor behavior or whatever occurred.
And what about What about if Angelina needed discipline, or AW, if she needed discipline, how would you plan on disciplining her?
Probably similar, but also being careful because she's very fragile. And talking with her about maybe what's going on and digging a little deeper. Because I understand that she's going through a horrible traumatic situation.
Do you believe that your social media posts or your siblings' social media posts have added to that trauma?
No.
You don't, honestly? Okay, all right, yeah.
Ms. Berger?
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Millian, you testified that you've had several visits, or I'm sorry, 2 visits with AW so far with Ms. Brene Moore, is that correct?
Yes.
And have you reviewed the reports that have been given after those visits by Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Judge, can I approach?
Okay.
Can you identify that, please? What type of document is that?
It looks like a summary of her report from the visit.
And her as in who?
Renee.
Okay. And how many reports are there? 3. And are the dates on those reports corresponding with the dates that you saw your sister?
Yes.
And can you tell the court a little bit more about some of the activities you've been able to do with AW when you visited her?
Yes. Our first visit, we made bracelets, beaded bracelets. We had some snacks together. We played Jenga. I brought a photo album with my sons and my nephew and my nieces, so that if she wanted to see them, it's been a long time, she could, and she did ask. So we had good conversation. She told me about gymnastics and her cat and knitting, and she talked about some of the things she'd been cooking. And then the second visit, I painted her nails. We had more snacks. We did some more bracelets. And really just kind of joked and talked.
Okay. And are some of these things that you did with her, were those things that you brought with you, like the Jenga and the bracelets and snacks and stuff like that?
Yep, I brought all of it.
And what made you think to bring those things?
I was thinking of things that she may enjoy. I also wanted a good activity so that her and I could interact. I know that she likes jewelry, she's very girly, and I thought, well, the bracelets would be perfect. She had fun picking out the beads and making the bracelet. And then nails, one of the last things we did together before we lost our mom is we got a pedicure. So that was something that we did pretty regularly, where we shopped and did nails and got pedicures and things like that. So I thought that that would be something she'd enjoy, and she did.
And is that knowledge based on your awareness as a mom or as a sibling, or how would you come up with that?
I think it's a combination. I think as a mom, I was trying to find comfort activities, things that we could interact well together. And then also just as her sister, I know what she enjoys.
Talk to me a little bit more about your house physically. When did you move into it?
About 4 or 5 years ago,
And is that something you built with your husband or bought?
we built it.
Did you like come up with the plans on your own?
My husband did.
Are you planning that to be like your forever home?
Yes, we're still adding on to it. We've got a bedroom coming and a bathroom coming in the basement.
Okay. Continuing project?
Yes,
And you mentioned that your mother-in-law lives next door, is that correct?
yes.
Which other members of your family live within maybe a 15-minute driving distance?
My sister-in-law lives across the street, and my brother-in-law also lives next door. So.
Okay, so
we're
right there.
Literally all right there, yeah. And then my siblings, we all live pretty close together.
And logistically, you would not have an issue, you know, transporting AW to any of her activities?
No,
Are any of them close to any of the activities your son's currently engaged in?
her, like her gymnastics, you're saying? Yes, actually, her gymnastics center is maybe 5 minutes from where my boys play soccer, so they're very close.
And what about schools? Are those close at all?
Yep, 15, 20 minutes maybe.
And what school do your kids go to again?
To come see.
What's your level of involvement in their school?
I help out when needed. I volunteer and do field trips when the kids have field trips, almost every single time. I like to be actively present in their life and school.
So does that feed into your flexible work schedule?
Yes.
You had mentioned that if the opportunity arises for Mr. Dale Warner to have any parenting time, that you would consider all of those options. Is that correct?
Yes.
And something like therapeutic or supervised or something along those lines?
Yes.
Are you aware of your mom's wishes specific to where she would want Angelina to live if something ever happened to her?
Yes.
And what are those?
My mom always said that if anything were to happen to her, that she wanted me to take care of Angelina. I think because she had a baby very late in life, that was a thought of hers. And her mom also had her late in life, and she lost her mom at a young age. So I think that was something that was on her mind, and she always wanted to make known. My siblings are aware of that too.
And something you had testified to previously was related to the stability in the Munger Road home where she's currently residing with Mr. Jaron Warner. Do you remember testifying about that?
About,
Her continuity of staying in that home.
okay, yes.
And how stable do you believe her support system has been in the last 2.5 years since your mother went missing?
I think that it sounds like Dale's kids have helped out, but it's not a consistent environment for her.
Projection, speculation. She said she's had no contact. She had no way of knowing that.
Any response?
Nope, Judge, I just asked if she knew.
Right. I suppose it is sustained then. I think it goes definitely to the weight of the observation rather than the visibility. It is duly noted.
You've heard testimony that your sister has been interviewed by police, attorneys, child protective services workers, and social workers. Is that correct?
Yes.
And why does she have to be interviewed by all these people?
I think they're trying to gather information as far as my mom's disappearance and Angelina's well-being. I don't know specifically each time. I'm not sure.
If you're aware, is there any one specific person that has caused all of these interviews to have happened?
Projection, speculation.
Okay.
I think we're both gonna have very different, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think we're both gonna have very different views as to who that individual is. It's one of two.
What was the question? That's causing all this.
If she was aware.
Yeah, but
Of who
she's aware
caused-
of the individual that is the cause of all of these interviews.
Ah, okay. If she knows if the child is aware of that,
No, if Ms. Million is aware.
of the person who's causing all of the interviews?
Yes, Judge, it's my position that there's one person that's at the root of all of these investigations. And I'm asking her if she knows who that person is. Why her sister has to go through the trauma of being interviewed by all these people.
I also have a view on who that individual is, but I don't think we think it's the same person. So I think that that is an inappropriate question that calls for speculation.
Your Honor, I don't think it's speculation when there are current pending charges.
And since until proven guilty, absolutely, there's a presumption of innocence. It's
I-
absolutely speculation.
Appreciate all of your opinions, and I think that is exactly what is being asked of this witness, which is just simply. It's not a conclusive legal conclusion in any way, shape, or form, so I'm gonna overrule the objections. It's simply a request for a lay. I can appreciate that you have differing opinions on it.
Can you restate your answer, please?
I feel like it's related to Dale.
Do you have anything else that you want to share with the court today?
Ms. Wilhelm. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Miss Million. I know it's been a long day. I hope I won't stress you too much here. I just want to ask you just a few questions about some things that you testified to. So you testified that you were deprived of contact with Angelina Warner, correct?
Yes,
But that's not true now, is it?
not that there's a court order in place.
But so it's not true now. You do have contact with her now.
Yes,
Okay. And you testified that you had a very strong bond with her before Mr. Warner deprived you of contact. Isn't that correct too?
yes,
And you testified that you expected AW to be nervous when you had your first visit with her, but that you felt the connection coming back almost instantly. Those were your words, right?
Yeah.
And she showed you her foot.
yeah.
And that raised hairs on everyone's arms, I want you to know, because it truly shows something. So I'm wondering if you can trust in the unsolicited observations of the school principal, Mr. Wright. And are you aware of his observations? Did you see his report?
Yes,
Oh, you did see it, so you don't need to see it again?
I did read it.
Okay, do you have any objection to it?
No.
Your Honor, no, there has been no objection whatsoever. This report by the principal has been circulated among all the lawyers, and Miss Million has seen it too. I would like to ask that it be admitted into the record.
Objections?
No objection.
No objections.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, you may have to approach on this one.
Okay.
While we're on, Judge, I would ask that the exhibit that I had asked Ms. Million about also be admitted. It also has been circulated to the courts.
What is that one?
It's the recommendation, or I'm sorry, the reports from Ms. Moore following visits.
We already have that, I think. There was a. I get, yes.
Perfect.
Wait, report, okay.
So Principal Wright says in his report that he's noticed a substantial change in her level of self-confidence, evidenced by a significant increase in her speaking volume. You talked about her speaking volume. Her speaking volume has been talked about a lot. And you testified that she used to be vivacious, correct? And he also noticed that, and he says, up until just a couple of weeks ago, before she started visiting with you, he had to ask her to repeat everything because she could barely be heard. And now he says that when just yesterday, as she was walking in a group of friends to chapel, and he was going along for the first time in all the time he's known her, he heard her voice rise above all the others. Now, I'm wondering if you're willing to trust in what he is seeing and calling her return to herself. Are you willing to trust in that? Are you willing to trust in your own observations that that bond is coming back in your own words, almost instantly.
Yes.
Are you willing to trust in the strength of that bond that you had with her all those times ago, all those years ago? Are you willing to trust in her ability to return of her in her own time and at her own pace?
If she's given an environment where she can freely express herself, yes.
And do you think she's doing it now? Do you think you're seeing that she is doing that now?
I think she is beginning to do that, yeah.
And so I'm wondering, are you willing to allow her to come back and become herself in her own time and at her own pace?
Yes.
Without pushing her to do something that she does not want to do?
As long as she is able to freely express what she wants, yes.
And she's beginning to. And do you have any information whatsoever that would lead you to believe, we're talking about Jaron Warner here now, that he in any way talks badly about you or your family to her?
I don't know that he talks badly about me. I don't think so. I don't think he would talk badly about me to her.
And as much as you love her, do you have any reason to doubt that he loves her just as much?
No, I believe he loves her.
And in that love, as you've expressed it, that you have for your own children, that you've not subjected them to all of this, do you have any idea that Jaron Warner would subject Angelina to all of this?
No, I don't think he would.
I thank you for your testimony, and I know that what you want is to do the right thing. Thank you.
Any, redirect?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. With regard to social media posts, were those social media posts prior to any petition for guardianship?
Yes,
And with regard to the social media posts, would you agree that, and have you not posted anything negative and you've remained neutral?
I believe so, yes.
And would you agree that it's imperative that AW not see any negative posts
Yes,
from either your family or from Dale Warner's side of the family?
right.
And are you representing to the court that you will do everything necessary to ensure that AW does not have any information as best as you can regarding any negative social media?
Yes.
And with regard to negative social media, you were asked if Angelina hears something from school, what would you do in that situation if AW were to come to you about hearing something, not from your family, but just negativity on social media?
As far as asking questions about what's going on or what she observed.
How would you help her?
By listening to her, I think that when issues like that come up, it is important to really discuss those with the trauma therapist too, because they are going to come up, and I'm sure they have those issues, and news circulating and people talking have already come up, which is another reason why I feel like the trauma counseling is important. I feel like it's between family providing that support and comfort in a situation like that. It's also important to have a professional involved.
Would you do anything to minimize the feelings of love that AW has for her father?
No.
You were asked about a counselor recommendation that allegedly stated that you and your family should have no contact with AW. What, if any, contact did you have with that counselor?
None.
what if any contact did your family, your siblings have with this counselor?
None.
Who would have provided the information to the counselor for the counselor to even make such an absurd recommendation?
Probably, your dad, I would assume, I don't know.
Now, if you look at exhibit 2, or actually was it, yeah, the exhibit that Ms. Berger gave you, with regard to Renee's recommendations, is there anywhere in that recommendation that states that you should not have contact with AW?
No.
In fact, isn't it true that the recommendation is quite the opposite?
Right. Yes.
So when Brene made that recommendation, unlike the previous counselor, did Brene have information from you?
Yes, I met with Renee prior to meeting with Angelina for our first visit.
And did Brene meet with AW?
Yes,
And did Brene also get information from Dale Warner's family?
I believe she met with Jaren as well.
So would you agree that that recommendation would be more valid than any recommendation of a counselor with regard to you that's never met you or your family?
Yes.
Cross?
Just very briefly on two minor issues, two smaller issues. So Lillian, you said that you believe that your mother would want you to have, to take care of AW, right?
Yes,
That's what you said. You and your mother didn't always get along though, did you? You,
I think every mother and daughter relationship has some rocky spots.
in fact, you went months without speaking, didn't you?
No, I don't believe so.
You didn't go months without seeing each other?
No, I don't believe so.
That's not true?
No, I do not believe so.
Okay. So if somebody said that, they'd be lying?
Possibly.
Okay. You testified that you didn't post anything on social media after the petition for guardianship was filed, right?
Yes,
All right, but may I approach her?
Okay.
Which
It's exhibit, it's still exhibit H to our objections.
What page?
3. This post that you shared with your brothers was from August 9th of this year, right? Just about a month before you filed the petition?
Your Honor, I would object, there's no year on this.
I would join
It's
in an
after Dale
objection
went
as
to
well.
jail and
Yeah,
Dale
we
went
would
to jail in
object.
August.
One at a time, please. Objection is?
That there's no year to this post.
I don't think anybody disputes that Dale went to jail in August of a year, and we all know what year that was. It was this year.
I don't know what you're looking at. I don't know if it's her post. Can we have a little bit of foundation about what you're asking her to talk about before we ask that question?
That's what I was talking about. Thank you. You recognize this post. It's the one we talked about earlier, right?
yes,
And that's a post that your brother Zach Bach said, posted, right?
yes,
And he said, "Welcome home, you POS, jail for Dale Warner," right?
yes,
And that has a date that says August 9th, right?
yes,
Are you aware of Dale going to jail in August of any other year other than this year?
No.
All right, so this is from this year, isn't it?
yes.
And you shared that post, right?
I shared this part of it, explaining what was going on. This part of it is what my brother posted. I did not write this.
I understand that, but you did share it, and that's what's depicted why your name's above it, right?
Right,
Okay. I'm gonna show you these, a series of posts. These are all attached as exhibit H to our objections. I wanna see if you recognize them, okay?
sure.
Why don't you flip through? Recognize all those social media posts? Yes?
Yes,
And those are all posts that you either shared, liked, or commented on, right?
Some of these are other people's posts. I
Right.
see you put Zach's and Amandia's, a lot of Amandia's and Zach's.
I'm gonna object as to foundation.
I'm laying the foundation.
You're not, you're saying these posts, there's
Sure.
absolutely no. There's no foundation as to date. You're not, you're talking about the posts collectively, we have no foundation.
I'm asking if she recognizes them. I'm part of this laying the foundation.
All right, we'll allow you to finish laying the foundation, and then if you wish to renew your objection, obviously that's available to you. Overruled for now, go ahead with your continued questions.
Thank you, Honor. I believe you said you recognize all those social media posts that you're flipping through right now, correct?
I recognize a lot of them, but some of these, I mean, they're not mine, so.
I'm not asking if they're yours. I'm asking if you recognize them.
I mean, I've probably come across them scrolling on Facebook. Yes, the ones that I didn't share are not associated with me, so I'm not sure.
We can go through each one if you'd like. What I have for you is, these are posts that you have either liked, shared, or commented on. If you'd like to flip through them and tell me if you disagree, that might speed this up, or we can go through page by page.
Okay. What are you asking?
I'm asking if you'd agree with me that posts that you're flipping through are either posts that you liked, shared, or commented on that relate to Dale Warner and your mother.
This one, I don't know specifically.
Okay,
I see you have it on here, but I mean, I don't see where I am associated with it.
I think flip to the next page. The same post, right? And then that's you liking it, correct?
Sure.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'm gonna object
So-
again. I have no idea if these posts are printed from the Facebook. I mean, there's no, I mean, I don't know if pages, I have no idea. This is just a hodgepodge of posts. I'm gonna object. There's no dates on them. There's pages of posts from allegedly 2022, and then there's posts that have no year. It's not a exhibit that anybody can validate. I mean,
I don't think he's finished
or
with his
authenticate.
foundation or attempt to discover whether or not Ms. Millian recognizes or wants to lay claim to what he's asking her for.
Your Honor, when he's turning to a page and saying, oh, you liked it, I don't know if this page is in connection to a post. There's no continuation of any page, so I don't understand how she would even be able to testify as to that she liked a post or didn't like a post based on this exhibit.
Well, that would be up to your witness to determine. She has been very forthright. I trust her to tell us if she recognizes his posts, or if she doesn't, or if she doesn't know.
Some of them I'm not sure. A couple of them I do recognize, like an article, sharing articles. I mean, sharing an article about what's going on with my mom. I'm not sure.
With commentary, right?
I did not comment or make any, I didn't say anything negative. I'm sharing some information that's going on about my mom.
Information with colorful commentary by others that you shared, right?
I guess this one, I'm not sure where there's anything. I mean, it's giving news and information. It's all over. I don't know what you're getting at.
Well, I don't know which one you're specifically looking at, but we talked about one where your brother was calling Dale a POS.
Mhm.
Do you know what POS stands for?
Yes.
All right, I think we all do. Right? Disparaging, right? Not very nice things to say. Can I take that back?
Probably not.
I move to admit this. It's exhibit H to our objections, or I can mark it separately.
It's already in the file. I appreciate the testimony that we've had. If I don't think necessarily that you would need to mark it and reiterate. Hello, counsel.
I'm gonna object to its admission. I believe it's properly authenticated. There are pages in the exhibit that you can't tell if it's part of a original post, and there's, I mean, I would object. I don't believe that any of it was authenticated properly.
Your position, Ms. Berger?
I would agree, Your Honor. I think it would be a more appropriate topic for the individual who either wrote the post or screenshot the post or saw the post on a computer or a phone. There's no actual way to authenticate these documents. We don't know if they're the original. Clearly, there's some sort of copy. There are things that are cut off. There are no years on some of them. Some of them do have years, but the majority of them that Mr. Head has been asking about do not.
Ms. Wilhelm, your position?
Your Honor, I have no objection to their admission. They're already in the record. I have confidence in the court's ability to give them appropriate weight.
Yes, I would agree. I think the objection goes to weight rather than admissibility. So I will not strike them from the file, which would seem to be the only other way to effectively dismiss them at this juncture. Anything else?
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Okay, Ms. Berger, did you have any recross?
I do not.
Ms. Wilhelm?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you for your testimony. You may return to your seat. Okay.
Your Honor, I'm through presenting my witnesses.
Mr. Head?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm gonna have a couple witnesses. I don't know if we're gonna finish today. I don't know how the court would like to proceed.
Were you looking forward to calling?
Cameron Warner would be my next witness.
All right, and then also, anyone else?
I'm sorry.
Anyone else?
Yes, I do intend to call Jaron Warner as well.
All right, will you inform me if you'll have any witnesses, Ms. Berger?
I will, Your Honor, just one.
And who would that be?
Zach Bob.
Right, and Ms. Wilhelm?
No witnesses, thank you.
Okay, so we have 3 more witnesses to plan for. I'm not entirely opposed to waiting until the next date for our next witness. I don't think we've had a witness yet complete testimony in 40 minutes, unless you think that one of yours could be concluded in 40 minutes.
I'm not confident on that. It's possible, but I don't know.
We have available next Friday, the 8th. Frankly, all day.
Your Honor, I'm gone. I'm sorry.
I'm down in Defiance County, Ohio, all day on the trial.
I'm also unavailable. Your Honor.
All right. It's gonna put us out pretty significantly. January 5th.
That's a Friday. I can. Sorry, Ms. Warner, one of my witnesses is not available that day.
This is Cameron.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It would be
May I
difficult for me
make
to.
a suggestion?
You may.
We may be able to take Cameron today. I've spoken with her myself, and I don't think it'll be that in depth. I can't imagine.
Is there anyone else that's unavailable on the 5th of January?
I'm not available, Judge.
I'm unavailable in the afternoon.
Are we looking for how much time? A half day or a full day?
Probably a half day. Would help. The morning of Wednesday, the 10th. Of January.
I can do that, Your Honor. I believe my witnesses would be available as well.
I'm available that day, Your Honor.
Is it possible that you could be available that day, Ms. Berger?
Yep, I'll make it work.
Appreciate it. Ms. Kuhn?
Could we do the afternoon, Your Honor?
Unfortunately, the morning is what I have available. The afternoon, I do not. I mean, worst case scenario, I could ambush the referee with the hearings that are set in the afternoon, but I would really only want to do that if we needed more than half a day.
I believe one of those is mine here, that afternoon.
So Ms. Kuhn, is it possible that you could be available to us on Wednesday, the morning of the 10th?
I can't do the morning on the tenth, but I apologize, I can do the afternoon.
All right. Well, if I go to the trouble of shuffling things around, are you available on the afternoon of the 10th?
Yes, Your Honor, I can do that. However, Ms. Warner might not be available, so we can start her today and see if we can get it done. We might be able to.
Yes,
I'll
I
do
was
my
going
best.
to ask you to try that, but afternoon of the 10th, everyone else?
Works for me, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
Works for
Okay, all right, so then let's proceed with your testimony and we'll earmark the 10th in the afternoon of January for the resumption of our proceedings. I'm sorry?
Starting at 1?
Yes, I agree. All right, Ms. Cameron Warner, come on up to our witness stand.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Good afternoon. Can you please say your name for the record?
Yes, Cameron Warner,
And spell it.
KamRynWarner.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you know AW, correct?
I do, yes.
How do you know her?
She's my half sister,
How long have you known her?
all her life.
All right. And where do you currently live?
I live at my father's home at 2170 West Park.
All right. And that's where AW lives, right?
Yes.
All right. And how long have you lived there?
I moved in when my father went to jail the first time, so in August.
Okay. And you lived there since then? So is it fair to say that you see AW every single day?
Yes.
Every single day since then, at least?
Yes.
Prior to you moving to that address, how often did you see AW?
I've seen her every day for about 2 years now.
All right. And how would you describe her relationship with Jaron, your brother?
I would say it's very strong. I mean, they do a lot together. He picks her up from gymnastics every day. They cook dinner together. We play games together. If she doesn't have homework, I guess like she gets home at 7, so it's kind of a cramped nighttime schedule to get dinner around, do her chores, do her homework. But we try to do the best we can.
How would you describe her schedule presently? Is it consistent?
Yes, it is very consistent.
And what type of activities is she involved in?
She goes to gymnastics 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. She has counseling, I think it's every other Tuesday. Now we have been having the visitation, I think if they're on Saturdays. And then, so Thursday is pretty much her only free.
I think a lot of the details that are discussed on record are already contained in documents, and I think it would be better if we shied away from those for purposes of the record.
Understood, Your Honor. I was just gonna kind of breeze through those. Thank you. Who else lives at that address?
Me, my brother, and then my brother's fiance, Allison,
All right.
and AW, sorry.
Yes, okay. And do you all live together as a family and share chores and household duties?
Yes, we did.
All right. And from your observations, how do you believe that AW feels about your brother Jaron?
I know she loves him. I guess since this has started, this is the most I've ever heard her say, "I love you." She tells us she loves us all of the time. She tells my dad she loves him when we video call. And before, honestly, I've never heard her say those words. So that's really good to hear. We're trying to reiterate that we're there for her, we care for her, and that she is loved by a lot of people.
That's good to hear. Do you believe, in you knowing AW, do you believe that she has the ability to articulate and explain where she wants to live?
Yes, I do.
And why do you believe that?
She is one of the smartest kids I've ever been around. She has her quirks with her cat and all of these other things, but she is extremely smart. She
oh, she wants to play like trivia games. I've seen her play trivia games before. She is just a lot smarter than what I think a typical 11-year-old girl would be.
So because of that intelligence, you believe that she has the ability to explain where she wants to live. So you believe that she receives appropriate love and affection at her home currently
Yes.
with Jaren? And have you ever heard Jaren speak badly in front of AW about your step siblings?
No, I haven't.
Do you know if AW has seen or heard about social media posts or media related to your father's charges?
She has not told me personally, but she does have multiple social media apps on her phone. And I think they talk about it at gymnastics, but I don't personally know.
All right, fair enough. Do you believe that Jaren has the ability to take care of AW?
Yes.
Do you believe that he has the ability to provide for her needs and her well-being? Yes.
Yes.
Do you believe that he has the ability to take care of her medical needs, take her to the doctor, take her to counseling, things like that?
Yes.
And you've actually personally witnessed him doing those things, right?
Yes, I have.
And you've helped as part of the household community for AW too, right?
Correct.
You believe that she's being provided for with food and clothing and things of that nature?
Yes, she is.
And you believe that Jaren has the financial ability to provide for her?
Yes, he does.
And you know that personally, don't you? You believe that it would be disruptive to AW to remove her from her home?
I do, yes.
Why do you think that?
I remember from before when Suzanne was talking and giving her report about how much like she loves her cat and how much she likes doing her chickens. I'm pretty sure Suzanne said something about getting garlic or something from the garden, which I thought was funny. I just think she feels comfortable in her home. She has a spot on the couch. She sits there every night. Her butt is sunk into the couch right in the middle. No one else ever wants to sit there. She's already thinking of things she wants for Christmas to put in her room. She just feels comfortable where she is.
All right, and that room, that's the room that she grew up in, right?
She grew up downstairs. She moved up there a couple years now. She's in Raquel's old room.
I understand, but that's the house that she grew up in, right?
It is, yes.
The only house that she's ever known, right? Ever lived in.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you'd like to tell us or tell the court about AW and her current situation versus the proposal for her to be taken care of by petitioner Ms. Million?
Yes, I think, well, I appreciate what Amber is saying. I know you love her a lot. It would be a massive change. I know she's only had 2 visits with you guys to just like abruptly switch houses. She's already confused on what's going on and the dynamics behind everything. We're trying to like shield her from any more hurts that she's already experienced. So I do think it would be best to wait until she does see the trauma therapist because none of us really know what to do in the situation.
Fair enough. Do you believe that Jaren would follow court orders with respect to AW's care and visitation and any court orders?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe that your brother Jaren would follow court orders even if it meant that Father Dale disagreed with those?
Yes, he would.
And do you believe that Jaren would act in AW's best interest because despite whether your father Dale would disagree?
Yes.
Have you seen any types of disagreements between what Jaren did versus what Dale wanted?
No, I haven't.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Cross-examination, Ms. Coon.
Thank you, Judge.
I call you Cameron?
Yes,
Cameron, how old are you?
I'm 23.
And are you employed?
Not at the moment. I work part-time for my dad's company, but I've been studying for my CPA exams.
Are you in school?
I finished school this year.
And prior to moving into the Munger home in August, where were you living?
At my mother's home in Tipton,
And why did you move into the Munger home in August?
because my dad was incarcerated and I wanted to be there for my sister.
And when did Jaren move into the Munger home?
When my father was incarcerated.
And prior to Jaren living in the Munger home, was he living in another home?
Yes,
Where was he living?
his house.
And does Jaren own another house?
Yes, he does.
And if you know, what are his plans with regard to the home that he owns?
I'm not sure.
And in terms of your brother being able to provide for AW, would you agree that Amber also would have the ability to provide for AW's emotional and all of her needs as well?
Yes, I did.
How long do you plan on residing at the Munger home?
For the foreseeable future.
And do you know how long Jaren is planning on residing in the Munger home?
I'm not sure.
No further questions, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Berger?
cheers. Thank you, Judge. Ms. Warner, you stated that you would want to wait for something to occur until AW sees a trauma therapist. I was just a little unclear on what you meant by that something.
I mean, if Your Honor was more likely to want to make a change to our living situation, I think that some weight would need to be placed in the traumatic experience that she might experience from it.
Okay, so that might be lightened by the help of the trauma therapist?
Right.
Would you necessarily be opposed to Amber being more involved?
I guess it depends
On what?
on the continued, on if she continues social media activity, if the siblings continue social media activity. From my standpoint, that has been the most hurtful to see in regards to Angelina. I haven't made a single post on my feelings for anything. I've never talked or voiced my opinion to Angelina on anything. And I would hope no one else does the same.
Do you have any examples of your brother Jaren doing things that maybe your dad would disagree with?
No, I don't.
And generally, is he a pretty agreeable person?
Yes.
And have you ever witnessed him exhibit any like parenting skills?
Yes, he's a caring person. He's kind. He's compassionate. He's very loving. I think those are all qualities that a parent has.
Okay. And does your brother have any children right now?
No, he doesn't. Unless a dog counts.
Sometimes I think he does. Has Angelina expressed any of her wishes regarding seeing her other siblings to you?
She has not. She talked about their visits and she showed us what Amber got her and the snacks, but other than that.
Okay. Did she seem happy about the visits?
Yes.
I have no other questions. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Wilhelm,
No questions, thank you, Your Honor.
any redirects?
No, no.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Unless you have any requests, Ms. Coogan.
I don't know.
Thank you for your testimony. Ms. Coogan. All right, any other preliminaries before we adjourn for the day on this matter?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm wondering if we might just need a bench conference just with the attorneys before we adjourn. There is the matter of continuing the temporary guardianship, it expires today.
Yes, I would be inclined to continue that until we resume our proceedings at 1 o'clock on Wednesday, January 10th. And to continue visitation of the recommendations of Ms. Renee Moore.
There are more things, so.
There are more things.
Well, yes, Your Honor, in light of some pushback that we have had, I would like for your order to be very specific with respect to Renee Moore's recommendations. I know you said that they are to be followed, but that with respect to other people besides Amber, the other siblings, anyone, actually, I would really like the order to say that with, and with Renee Moore's oversight and discretion, that Angelina Warner should get to see anybody she wants to see. And I think Renee Moore would back me up on that. That's with Renee's discretion. If Renee felt that she was wanting to see someone who wouldn't be good for her, she would let it happen. So I do mean with Renee Moore's discretion, but AW has, she has voiced her opinion, and she's wanted to see her nephews now for a long time, and she's going to get to see them on Saturday, but I want this court to say that she gets to see them, because I don't want to have Friday night come and have a letter saying, oh yes, but the court did not say that she could see nephews. The court only said that she could see maternal siblings. We need to say specifically what she can do and what she cannot do. And also, pretty soon, there's probably going to be community outings, and that'll be at Renee Moore's discretion too. But I want that to be in an order, because when Renee Moore decides that AW is ready for those community outings with her sister, that they happen, that we don't have to come here and get an order. We're waiting all the way now till the middle of January. So that's quite a long time. We may have some resolution on some other issues in the meantime. And so, Your Honor, we may have to come rushing back into court at any moment in time, but I would like to obviate the need for that as much as possible and get specific orders on Ms. Moore's recommendations being followed, even if they aren't just maternal siblings. And I do think Angelina Warner has the ability that she does know who she wants to see, and she knows who she's not sure of. She knows that. She has specified that she's dying to see her nephews. She wants to see Raquel and the baby. Past that, she's not sure though. She's not sure. This is not a girl who is going to be doing things that aren't good for her. She also knows what's good for her. She knows that this is very good for her. And we all know it. I just want to make sure we don't get any kinds of pushback on it, and that it gets to happen. I believe that it will with Jared Warner, because we have a really good working relationship with him. But while Mr. Warner was out of jail, we had some pushback, and I just want to make sure we don't have any more of that.
Thank you.
I'm sure you have a response.
I do. I have two separate things to say. I think the court will understand what I'm saying. Firstly, for the record, Dale Warner does object to giving over the authority to make those decisions regarding visitation. He believes he has a constitutional right to make those decisions. That issue is up on appeal with the Court of Appeals right now. Setting that aside, I think that the court's order for visitation is important to follow Ms. Moore's recommendation. I think Mr. Warner understands that and respects that, despite his pleadings to the contrary. But we also need to factor in Angelina's busy schedule. She's got gymnastics 3 days a week. She's 11 years old and she has homework. She's in 6th grade. She's got all these other activities. To require visitation, I think that we just need to make sure that there's a balance between what AW wants. I think is of vital importance here. I agree with Ms. Wilhelm. I just want to make sure that we're not losing sight of overburdening her by forcing something that may cause more harm than what we're trying to accomplish. But I do understand the court wanting to follow the recommendations of Ms. Moore, who's recommending visitations and expanding those outside of her office. Aside from the objections and the authority issue, I don't have any objection to that. I think that would be appropriate. That would be conducive to building that type of a relationship under the court's current orders. I just want to make sure we don't lose sight of the fact that she's an 11-year-old girl and requiring multiple visitations for hours upon hours per week, in addition to her already busy schedule. I just don't want us to be hamstrung by those realities as well. So I hope that we can all work together to find a balance for that,
And Your Honor,
but I don't want to be
if I
too
may-
restricted with the orders.
If I may respond, Ms. Moore has recommended 2 hours weekly, and she has also been very, very good to change to a 2-hour visit because of Angeline's schedule and not overburdening her. So instead of 2-hour separate visits, she's having this Saturday 1 2-hour visit. And Ms. Moore would like to have the ability to in her discretion to be able to do that. She needs to watch this. It's like keeping her foot on the gas pedal. You know, because you're right, she can't let Angelina get hurt, and she won't let her get hurt. And she's pretty much given her heart and soul to us on this. I trust her. And so I do think that we do though have to have regular visitation. Some things are extremely important. Trauma specialist, I know that Jaron is working on that. I trust that he will get her in. And she's got to get in, and that's a priority. If she has to miss a gymnastics day for trauma specialist counseling and for visitation that has obviously been better for her than any counseling she's gotten to date, we have to make way for that. That's all there is to it. She has to have it.
One moment, please.
Yes, Your Honor, sadly, listening to the commentary of Mr. Head, placing the extracurricular activities over the importance of AW's family that were ripped away from her, which most likely caused additional trauma, is very, very disappointing. And I think that it is equally important for AW to be able to enjoy activities, but I also think that it is extremely important, as Ms. Wilhelm said, that AW get reconnected with her family, and that if Renee is recommending even, a time where AW goes to Amber's home and spends the night, that should be allowed to occur. Ms. Wilhelm brought up a very, very valid fact. We did get pushback, and our concern is that we will continue to get pushback as AW actually starts to feel like she can enjoy Dee Warner's family. So there's concern that there's a power play, that less time will not negate anything coming in for January 10th. I don't think any of us should be looking at that. I think we need to look at the fact that this child has gone through the most unimaginable horror, trauma that child could go through, and she needs her family. And that may very well be, as Ms. Wilhelm said, more therapeutic than gymnastics. So I would ask that the court consider in its order, putting in the order that the parties will adhere to Renee's recommendations, and that they will make it happen. Because there are other days, there are other times, there are weekends. I am sure, despite the busy schedule, that these parties, I know that Amber will, she will make it happen. So to try to hide behind extracurricular activities as a way to preclude this family's contact with this child who really, really, really needs this contact is just very disappointing.
Ms. Berger?
I have nothing to add, Judge.
And Your Honor, just a few things. There's a trauma therapist, the first appointment's, it's already scheduled, it's already been agreed to see AW, and that first appointment is on Monday, this upcoming Monday. I think that any order related to visitation should be subject to any recommendation, strong or otherwise, one way or the other, from this trauma therapist. So I just want the court's order to reflect that subject to any recommendation of any specialized trauma therapist, who is completely independent.
Who is your therapist?
Lisa Branton,
Is she local?
she's in Ann Arbor, Branton Therapy.
What's her name?
Lisa Branton.
Brenton?
Branton, yeah, Branton.
Okay.
Sent an email out to the council, so they're aware of it as well.
So that's one consideration I'd ask Your Honor to reflect. If she suggests more visitation, I think that should be considered. If she requests less or suggests less, I think that should be considered. I don't know. I've never met her. I never had a, I don't know what she's gonna say. But I think that specialized trauma therapist should have some weight in determining the length and the frequency of any visitations. Secondly, I think the court's order should reiterate, I'm not sure if the ex parte order that was amended does, that there should be a non-disparagement provision that nobody that AW is visiting with may be able to disparage either one of her parents. I think that that's important. Finally, I wasn't trying to hide behind extracurricular activities. I have a 12-year-old daughter. I know how important activities are for a young lady of that age. I was saying that I hope that the court will consider what AW wants and what AW's extracurricular activities are, rather than trying to force a situation where certain family members want one thing, other family members want another thing. What's in her best interest? And I think she should have a lot of input there. And I agree with Ms. Wilhelm that she should have that input. If she decides that she doesn't want to participate in gymnastics as much as she wants to hang out with her nephews, that should be a consideration. If she wants to skip gymnastics because she wants to hang out with her nephews or other family members, that should be a consideration. Likewise, if she decides that I've got a commitment, I'm on a team, this is something that I'm driven to do, I think that should be considered too, and she shouldn't be forced to miss those opportunities or those gymnastics or extracurriculars simply because some family members think that that's what they want, rather than what's in her best interest.
So I would invite you, Ms. Wilhelm, to draft us an order that does indicate that the frequency, duration, and the conditions of parenting time will be delegated to Ms. Renee Moore pending January 10th. To include the expansion of parenting time to include any and all appropriate family members as she sees fit, and those conditions as well. To include expansion into the community, even effectively overnights if that's appropriate. Including also the non-disparagement provision as it relates to both children, or I'm sorry, both parents. And I would like you to, I'd like our guardian to look at securing a trauma assessment. We have a local provider through Catholic Charities, I think. There's Samaritas that does them. There's the best one, frankly, is WMU. Dr. Henry out in Kalamazoo does an excellent job, and I think he was basically the father of the entire process. So I would invite you to secure that trauma assessment that will give you a litany of recommendations on books and methods, and evaluate from a couple of different perspectives what would be best moving forward. And there's also a bonding assessment as part of that trauma assessment that could be completed with both of our competing guardians. So WMU would be the first choice, Dr. Henry. Otherwise, whoever else is available, and if it's not covered by insurance, I would say that you could share the expense of it, frankly, because of that bonding assessment, to allow both of our competing guardians to participate in that bonding assessment, to give us, as everyone is asking, a very professional opinion.
Trevor, is that an invitation or an order?
It will be part of the order.
Thank you.
I just talked myself into it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have the same question. I do have one other clarification. Can we, and request, can we keep the visitation supervised until further order of the court?
No, because we're gonna have holidays coming up and through, and I can see how that could be a problem if that becomes available to get in the way, frankly, of parenting time. And I trust Renee Moore to let us know if supervised or unsupervised is appropriate.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes, Your Honor. I would request that the trauma assessment that's scheduled, that Jared not take AW to that assessment. That trauma assessor was recommended by the counselor who never spoke to any of Dee Warner's family, but made the recommendation that Dee Warner's family should not see AW. So I would ask that that trauma assessment not occur and that we go through proper channels of what you've recommended.
Well, I don't think this was a full-blown trauma assessment that was scheduled. It sounds like it was just an appointment with a trauma counselor, but I want to know what Ms. Wilhelm thinks.
Well, Your Honor, that is true, that that Ms. Branton was recommended by Sandy Walchek. And we do know that Sandy Walchek has never met or talked to any one of these family members. And we do know that up until even just very recently, Sandy Walchek has been continuing to advocate that Dale Warner's wishes be upheld and that she should have no visitation with her family. I've been advocating for 2.5 years for her to be able to have visitation with these. In our other cases, there is a jurisdiction. This was just a stroke of luck.
Speak up a little for me, please.
This is just a stroke of luck that we got this proceeding so that you can make these orders and you can make her life better. I think that we could look at another therapist, a trauma therapist, one that would be perhaps more neutral.
So Ms. Brene Moore is trauma trained.
Oh, no, Ms. Brene Moore, yes.
So why do we need another therapist?
Yeah. I don't-
Well, for therapy, a trauma specialist for therapy.
Just for the purpose of
Yeah,
therapy?
that was a different one, and Lisa Branton was recommended by Sandy Walchek.
Do we have a
there's a-
recommendation from
Yeah, we
Brene
do.
Moore?
We have Amy Drescher. And Amy Drescher is not affiliated with anyone.
Yeah, come on up to our podium if you don't mind. Go ahead.
Karen Warner again for the record.
Thank
So it was no easy task to find a trauma specialist. Looked around a lot, on a lot of wait lists. We put on Lisa's wait list a couple of weeks ago, and she kind of reached out the other day and said that she had availability for us. I know they're saying there's concern that she has connection to Sandy, but Lisa is a trained professional, neutral third party. She doesn't know anything about what's going on, so I'm not sure how there'd be interference there.
Do you have any issue with looking at the recommendation made by Brene Moore? And I think as an extension of that, is that person more local than Ann Arbor?
That person is in Toledo, so it's actually closer. And I will ask Brene Moore. I know Brene Moore was definitely not in favor of Thriving Minds. That was one that was looked at too. I will ask her about Lisa Branton. I will ask her about Amy Drescher, and I too will trust what she says.
Sharon, are you comfortable? You can keep the appointment, but can we run it by Brene Moore first?
Yeah, I just, one thing is that this council is the other one that recommended her. I don't know if there's any connection with Amber's council and Amy.
I don't,
You know what I mean? I don't know.
recommendations aside,
Right,
I would really, in order for me to say whether she's good or not, I'd have to look at a lot of different things. But I can tell you that Brene Moore has testified as an expert in many cases in our court, faithfully so, working towards the best interest of all of the children that she's worked with. So that's why, rather than trying to vet a new expert, you know, we would look to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was just gonna say as well that I know Amy Drescher does online appointments, so I know Angelina has a busy schedule and that might help on their end as well. And she is licensed in Michigan.
I mean, I'm not gonna make a definitive ruling on this, but I can tell you that I don't want it to become a battle of the experts and asking Angelina to go through reintroducing her to several different people and maybe asking overlapping questions, probing into these issues for her will be traumatic for her.
right.
So I would be inclined to ask you to see if you can get the full-blown trauma assessment done first and then take those recommendations from there. And then any other recommendations made by Brene Moore in the meantime, but she does need a counselor.
Right.
So, and I know Brene Moore would agree with that if we're an individual counselor. So is this person gonna perform individual counseling for her?
Yeah, on Mondays, it's just the initial consultation.
Okay. All right, well, and you know, I've heard a lot about her busy schedule, right? So if if there's a provider that can work more flexibly or more locally to allow for visitation and all of Angelina's activities, that needs to be the priority in your decision-making at this point.
Alright.
Okay?
Yep.
So I won't make a definitive ruling on that, other than whatever he indicated as far as the trauma assessment goes. I wish you the best of luck on that point.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Okay, anything else?
No, thank you.
Thank you for your time, for your arguments, that's all for today.